Welcome, everyone. My name is Tracy Murphy-Poxtis, and this is Good to Great in Under 8, the weekly show for motivated professionals who want to stop feeling trapped or frustrated and start having greater impact and more career fulfillment. So, guys, have you ever been dealt a hand that just honestly, well, stinks? You know, where an issue just continues to become more and more difficult, or a crisis just keeps compounding? Well, if you haven't, you will, because as leaders, quite honestly, guys, adversity is unavoidable. And as I'm sure many of you can attest to, a lot of the challenges that we face as leaders are tough. And it's important to remember that the challenge itself can also be compounded for us and for other people based on how we choose to respond. But that said, how we choose to respond to adversity is really what defines our true leadership character. When we're hit with adversity, it's not uncommon for us to be frustrated or feel fear or anger or a multitude of other negative emotions. However, if we choose to stay in that emotional state, it's also likely that we're going to become paralyzed and honestly unable to take any kind of effective action. So instead, we really should be thinking about adversity as a self-motivating challenge and learning how to really tap into our inner sense of determination. So we should really be thinking about adversity as a test, right? A test that if we pass will really help us thrive. So when I'm working with my clients on adversity, when they're really dealing with a difficult challenge or a major obstacle, we typically work through three key things. The first is their mindset and how they're actually perceiving and viewing the challenge they're facing. Then we talk about their action plan. And then we talk about their inner will or their inner drive to really be able to continue to push that action plan forward. So today I'm going to talk a little bit more about number one, the mindset that someone has in terms of how they're perceiving the challenge. And then next week, I will talk about the remaining two, which is the action plan and the inner will to keep moving it forward. So I'm sure you guys have heard the saying that cooler heads prevail. And quite honestly, there is a lot of truth to that. I'm sure you know from your own experiences that when you have a more rational view of a situation, it's just easier to put things into perspective. But when you have a more emotional view, you might not be able to see things as they actually are, right? So the trick is to reduce that emotional state and really bring that logical, rational, and discerning view to the forefront to really help you overcome that challenge. And so as you think about that process, there's three things that I work with clients on to do. And I call this process righting the mind, right? Getting your mind in the right place. And so the first step of that process is to remain calm and don't knee-jerk react. Now, I know that this is easier said than done, but it is so critical because a calm composure not only is going to help you get clarity, but it's also going to have a positive impact on other people, right? If you're not knee-jerk reacting or freaking out, it's much more likely that other people won't either. And so what you're essentially doing here is really building a strong mental muscle for you and everybody else around you. And trust me, when it comes time to put your action plan into place, you're going to really, really be glad that you did this. And like I said, it isn't easy. This takes discipline and it can be learned. And guys, I can tell you, I was not the best at remaining calm. I used to knee-jerk react all the time, but I am living proof that with discipline and time, this can really happen. And it's also something that I'd be more than happy to help you with. So then that second piece of writing the mind is all about making sure that you're actually framing the challenge in the right way. So you can't make a good decision if your understanding of the challenge is flawed, right? So you want to make sure that you're framing it true to form, right? True to what it really is. So this means gather data, gather perspectives, figure out the root causes of what's really going on, get all the facts, right? Because what you want to do is get that accurate picture of the actual problem. And don't assume that you know this. I repeat, do not assume that you know this. Without doing this, your action plan that you develop going forward will be flawed and it will be ineffective. And then that last piece of writing your mind is to start to break the challenge down into workable chunks. Right? So what are the key buckets or key areas of the challenge? Because guys, it's going to be easier to find solutions for those key pieces and trying to correct for those versus trying to boil the entire ocean. And remember, evaluate the situation after working through each chunk, right? Because this is going to help you manage your emotions through that process. And if you can write your mind as the very first step, it's going to really help you see that challenge more clearly. It's also going to enable you to learn from it, to correct it, to prevent it, and to also help yourself just get better. So guys, that's it for today. Have a great week. And remember to check back next week when I'll be talking about the remaining 2 steps for overcoming adversity. And that's putting your action plan together and really tapping into your inner drive and will. So I will see you next week, guys. Have a fantastic week.